What's up guys, Sub-Zero here. I just finished my stream and as you can see I am over 500 LP, which means I'm going to promote to Challenger in a little under 4 hours. So I wanted to give you guys my thoughts on the current patch 12.5, what the strongest comps are and what you can use to climb during the patch. I usually give you my top 5, but I'm actually going to give you a bonus comp here. This is, in my opinion, the 6th best comp, or at least somewhere in the top 6. The placement of these comps is pretty close, so this is, in my opinion, a quite strong comp as well. It is Twinshot Reroll, so you're definitely rerolling for Gangplank and Lucian, potentially also rolling for Corki. You can also roll for Morgana, Lulu, Leona. You can literally reroll for all of these units, but yeah, this is Twinshot Reroll, mostly using a Gangplank and Lucian carry. It's a really effective comp, honestly, after the buffs to Twinshot. If at level 8 and 9, you can potentially take out enchanters and tech in, say, like a Jinx, so that you can get up to 4 Twinshot, and if you have an augment that can push you to 5, it's absolutely nuts. But also just rolling with a GP3 is going to make you so much gold during the early game that's going to allow you to roll down more. It's a really fun comp to play, and also surprisingly effective. So Twinshot Reroll, definitely something that should be on your radar. And like my other video where I went over top 5 comps, I am going to go from worst to best, so I will ascend in order of power. So my next most powerful comp, in my opinion, is Irelia Socialite carry, and this is the 4 scrap variant, but there's tons of variants you can go with this. You can run a 5 innovator variant, you can run a 4 striker variant, or even a 6 striker variant depending on augments. You can play flexibly depending on what you hit, but the gist of this comp is you play usually 3 Socialites, maybe 2 depending on Irelia items, and you put Irelia in the Socialite hex and you have her go off. So yeah, another pretty easy to understand comp. There's a lot of item carriers that you can use early game, like Gnar and Rek'Sai. Just any striker really can do work with these items oftentimes, and then get in all of these units late game. You get in your 3 Socialite units. You also get in this variant 4 Strap, but you can throw in Striker as well. And in this variant, you're playing Braum as a bodyguard with Blitzcrank. So yeah, I think this is a very solid comp to, roll for at level 8 if you have these AD items and you're at 8 and you're rolling down and you see some Irelias, then yeah, I'm absolutely going to play the Socialite Irelia comp. So one of the premier 4-cost carry comps in the meta right now is this Socialite Irelia comp. The next comp, which is also in many variations a 4-cost carry comp, is Innovators, and this is 5 Innovators plus whatever. So you can put in a Jace as your carry and throw in things like a Kha'Zix. The variant that I'm showing on the screen right now is using a Jhin carry, and then also a Vi frontline, and then a Caitlyn for the Sniper plus Enforcer bonus. There's a lot of different ways that you can take this comp. So you can throw in Orianna and then use Orianna as the carry and put in units that synergize with that. If, say, you have a +1 Clockwork, you can put a Jhin plus Orianna and have 4 in, and then maybe play the Vi. There's a lot of stuff you can do with the Innovators comp. It's a very strong just core that you can build around with so many different units because it has so many different synergies within it. You can even potentially throw an Irelia in, maybe like Socialite plus Irelia. 5 Innovator Socialite Irelia also works. There's a lot of stuff you can do with the Innovator comp, so this is, in my opinion, the 4th strongest comp on this patch, and, there's a lot of comps that go with it, but it's really just the 5 Innovator variation of all of these different comps. Alright, so now into the top 3. We have, first, this is Syndra Reroll, and this is a variant that plays a lot of different carries. So in this variation, you can carry Draven, you can carry Zeri, you can carry Syndra, you can carry Jhin. Probably don't carry Talon, he's really just a synergy bot here. But Syndra Reroll, in my opinion, is actually quite strong. You can also cut out some of these units, put in, say, a Brand over this, and put in any Arcanist over the Camille, and end up running a more AP Arcanist version of this comp. There's a lot of stuff you can do with the core of Debonair. I think Debonair is one of the strongest cores of this entire patch. I feel like if you play a lot of Debonair units, get a 3-star Leona, and then, roll for something else, either a Syndra or a Talon, which I'll get to later, you're going to do well. So yeah, I think the Debonair core is incredibly strong. This variant being Syndra Reroll is, in my opinion, I mean, disgusting when it gets rolling. And you can usually tell pretty early if you're in this comp. If you get offered an early Debonair Syndra, that's a good signal. If you get offered an augment that pushes you in the direction of Scholars, then that's a great signal. If you just end up rolling 3 Debonair early game, and then that's going to increase your chance of hitting a Debonair VIP unit. So if you get a VIP Syndra just from rolling, say, a Syndra plus a Brand plus a Leona frontline or early game, then, you know, that's another way to just get into this comp. And then you just, in most cases, roll down for Syndra. This, you can also, if you're going to play a slightly different variation of this comp, so like the one I'm talking about where, say, you cut this, cut this, cut this. If you end up playing the variation where you play, say, Brand plus 1 Arcanist, let's call it Ari, then you can do a lot of stuff here. You can tech in another Syndicate, so the most obvious unit to put in here is Zyra. This is going to round out Syndicate and Scholar, so this is another variation that you can play that I think is really strong. So this is the more AP variant. If you have no AD items whatsoever, you can run this, and I think this is also incredibly strong. And then you can also roll down for Zyra as well, so you're going to be rolling for Leona plus Zyra plus Syndra, and this will give you a really strong core of 3 units that can carry you through the entire game. You could also potentially, I mean, you're going to end up losing Syndicate buff, but if you have Malzahar, you could roll for Malzahar as well. You could even roll for like a Vex as well instead of this and end up dropping down out of as many Debonairs. Say drop these 2 Debonairs, drop down to 3 Debonairs, and end up rolling for a Vex as well. And if you have something like a +1 Arcanist, then you can slot in Ari here. So this build is only 3 Arcanist, but if you had, say, a +1 Arcanist, you could play this build where you're still getting your Syndicate in, but you have the Vex that you've rolled for, Malzahar. You're rolling down for a ton of units at this point, so the chance you hit is pretty high. Though you need a lot of gold, and you need to be pretty stable to do this, to roll for all 5 of these units and have the gold to hit them all. But if you end up hitting it, it will be a very strong comp. So yeah, I would say it's really strong just to flex around this Debonair trait with a ton of strong units in it. So this is one of the ways to flex around it, flexing around Cinder Carry, and you will see in a sec what I think another really strong way to flex around it is. But before we get to that, I want to get to the second strongest comp, which is Ashe Carry, Syndicate Ashe Reroll. I mean, once you get an Ashe 3, she just starts popping. If you get an Zyra 3 as well, that is really nice. You can also roll for Morgana 3, so these are the 3 units that you will tend to roll for, and then you can end up capping out your comp with an Orianna, Jhin, and Silco. So usually you'll play this core of units, ideally if you can roll a Braum early at level 5, and then late game, you can put in these. You can also, you know, if you don't have a Braum yet, you can cut the Braum for any bodyguard. You can cut the Morgana for any sniper and not run 5 Syndicate, but have a really strong early game. So that's what I would recommend doing, playing something like a Blitzcrank and a Misfortune or a Caitlyn and something else so that you can get through this early game and have a really strong Ashe late game. I haven't really covered Ashe Carry before. I have a video coming out of it soon where I popped off with it, but Infinity Edge Last Whisper with most AD carries is really strong on it. Quicksilver is a nice third option. There's also, you know, Deathblade. You can even run something like Gwynsu's, Giant Slayer, ton of items that Ashe can carry, but, you know, it's just generic AD items, really. But yeah, roll down for these units, and you will have an incredibly strong comp. So we've seen Reroll as third best comp, second best comp. What do you think the first best comp is? I talked about it a little already, but it's another Reroll comp. It is going to be Talon Debonair Carry. I think this is just the best comp right now. I think if you end up in a spot where you have a Debonair Talon early, you have any reason that's pushing you towards this comp, so you get like an extra assassin from your augments, then boom. I would just go in on Talon as long as you can hit the Debonair Talon. I think it's so strong. This is absolutely his best in slot: Infinity Edge, Quicksilver, and a Rapid Fire Cannon. Ideally, you get these 3 items every time. He's a unit that really loves these items. Infinity Edge, just obviously for amplifying his damage. RFC for giving him a lot of more damage as well, because he really likes attacking a lot because of his ability, and also just to keep him safe. And then Quicksilver to also keep him safe and to protect him from getting Enforced, because so many people are running Enforcer right now, because if you don't hit, say, a 3-star Leona, then Talon's gonna end up getting Enforced, so the Quicksilver can help with that. So This, in my opinion, is the strongest comp right now in the game. If you hit it, you get everything running, all the bells and whistles. You can even finish it out with a Silco carry at level 8, or you can even finish it out with a Silco at level 8 to help just make sure your units are even harder to kill, and the comp kills units fast enough that you don't really have to worry about Silco killing all your units. If all your units are dead to Silco, then you've probably won the fight already, or you're not very strong. But yeah, that is the gist of it. That's Talon carry. So those are the top 5, or really 6 comps in my opinion. Now for some just general thoughts about the patch. I think it's really good. I think it's really flexible, and there's a lot of stuff that you can play. So don't be deceived by the fact that I think these comps are the strongest 3 comps. I do believe this is actually a patch where you can play a lot of different things. These reroll comps, I think, are toward the peak of the average game that you'll get, but there are definitely games where you can cap it out with a much stronger comp by just playing flexibly, playing around your augments. So for example, just in super high elo, close to Challenger, I had two firsts in a row. The first playing Victor, Mutant carry with Silco, and just this entire board. And then the other first playing just this absolutely crazy Debonair / Mutant board, 5 Debonair, 5 Mutant with a Kaisa carry. Like, these comps aren't on my tier list, but this is what I had to play in my games to get me to a first. So don't get too caught up with, okay, I have to reroll every game to hit these comps. There are definitely some really strong comps you can play that aren't reroll if you end up in the spot to play them. So I would say this patch, focus on these comps, keep them in your mind if you end up in a spot to play them. But if you see another comp that seems either really open, or you have really good augments, really good items, really good units to play, then I would absolutely play it. I think there's so many viable comps right now. Riot's done a pretty good job balancing this patch. And as far as tempo goes, like when you want to roll down, is this a comp where, or is this a patch where you want to greed out for super long or roll down super quickly? I think this is generally a patch where you want to roll down faster. As you can see with all the reroll going around, people are spiking. You know, if you run into a spiked Talon board at level 6, you're going to take damage. So I think this is a patch where you can afford to roll down at 6, roll down at 7, just to make your board stronger. This is not a patch where you're just going to never press the D key until you get to level 8. And, you know, even stuff like this can farm you if someone hits an early gangplank too with good items. So yeah. And then as far as starting items, I am still a big fan of the sword start. As you can see, I believe with all of these comps, this comp uses 2 swords. This comp can potentially use 2 swords on Irelia. This comp, Jin can use 2 swords, and you can use a sword for Shojin. This comp is the comp that you would think actually doesn't use that many swords, but in terms of Syndra items, you can put a Hextech Gunblade on her, you can put an IE Jewel Gauntlet on her, you can put a Giant Slayer on her, so she actually uses swords really well. In this Ashe comp, you definitely want Infinity Edge. After that, it could be a Giant Slayer as her 3rd item, so that's potentially another 2 swords. And then Talon is probably the only unit here who only wants 1 sword. He wants the sword for the Infinity Edge, and then he really wants bows, gloves, and cloaks to finish out the rest of his comp. So I'm a big fan of the sword start. I think it can flex in AD or AP, so you can play either side. So if you get a bunch of rods early or a bunch of tiers early, you can play AP, or if you get a bunch of gloves and swords and bows early, then you can play AD. So I think sword is just, in my opinion, the best start right now because of its flexibility. So yeah, I don't want to keep the video too long. I hope you guys enjoyed. I am super pumped to be hitting Challenger in TFT. This is my first time hitting Challenger after really only starting playing in set 5.5. I've played a little bit before that, but not too much, but I won't get into all that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did like the video, please comment down below with any thoughts, and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed it. Also, please check out my Twitch down below, and I'm also setting up a Patreon account down below if you want any of my videos sooner, any of my tier lists sooner, or if you want personal coaching or just Q&A or anything with me. I'm going to set all of that up in the Patreon down below, so check out the link, and hopefully I'll have it set up to some degree. So if you want to support me, if you enjoy my content, then that would be greatly appreciated as well. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.